Welcome to the Crumb Cellar podcast, where Marcus Paschke and
Kyle Bellhumor
will be reviewing and arguing our point of views on many controversial celebrity crimes and their punishments, or lack thereof. Okay, so we will start with Caitlyn Jenner, who, if you are unfamiliar with the topic, rear-ended a person and moved them into oncoming traffic where they were killed. So here's the video of that. We'll put it on your screen now and we'll watch it in real time. So, Entertainment Today coming in clutch. There's Jenner's black Escalade. As you can see, it obviously rear ends that white car there, where they go veering into oncoming traffic. And there's Jenner's bougie ATV in the back, just flaunting their wealth there. Okay, so that was pretty much the video. We get the gist. So obviously in driving school, the number one rule is to pay attention to what's in front of you, and if you rear end someone, it's generally conceived that you are at fault because if they brake, you're supposed to brake, vice versa. The documents showed that she actually did brake, but obviously not hard enough because she still hit them. She was tried, or no, she wasn't tried. She was deemed, it was deemed that she couldn't be held, it couldn't be proven that it was her fault, and she was not charged with vehicular manslaughter, which she should have been, because she rear-ended them into oncoming traffic, thereby killing them, and she had the chance to stop and did not.
So the problem with this is she doesn't take accountability for her actions in this because she blames the paparazzi who were following her. So there was a group of cars. You can't see it in the video. They look like normal cars, but it's actually paparazzi that are following her. However, if you look, they're nowhere near her car. It's not like they're tailgating her. They're just driving normally. And she blames them as being responsible because there are laws in California that talk about paparazzi being a certain distance from a celebrity. They can't intrude on their daily life, and she's saying that they're basically interfering with her and they distracted her enough that she somehow lost focus of what was in front of her and ended up rear-ending a car.
Yeah, and also that was not the reason for why they let her go or they said she wasn't accountable. It was just because they couldn't prove that it was her fault at the wheel, even though she obviously rear-ended them. And so, yeah, that was case number one. Oh, and also they settled a civil lawsuit a couple of years back for $800,000.
Yeah, to her, this person's life was just some pennies for her, basically. She paid off the
pocket
charge.
Pocket change.
Yeah, I mean, you see celebrities, this happens very frequently, where they're getting away with serious crimes and they're just paying. It's basically like bail to get out of jail, but they're just paying someone for a dead family member. And this happens a lot, and this is just another case of it. And it was only $800,000 to her, and it's not really much.
For our second source of evidence, we'll be using O.J. Simpson, who should have been found guilty for the double homicide of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown. So OJ should be found guilty for a multitude of reasons that point to him being the killer. They were killed one night, and he said his alibis have switched multiple times. He said he was sleeping one time. He said he was hitting golf balls. His maid could not confirm that his white Bronco was in the car at the time. So no one knows where he was at the time of the murders. So after they happened, he took a flight to Chicago. So after he landed in Chicago, he got a phone call saying that Nicole Brown has died. Special word died there. The police called him and said died because he was a suspect at the time, and he responded with who killed her, which is oddly suspicious for someone who just died. And so he came back, and the police had a warrant for his arrest, which led to the infamous Bronco chase.
Yep, so him and his friend Al Cowling, they took his car, the white Bronco, and through the freeways of LA, they were chased by police for about an hour. And the thing that raises eyebrows here is, why is he running if he's not guilty. Guilty people don't usually run, but it can be assumed that, he's guilty if he's really running from the police from this long. And there were phone calls to 911 that claimed he was armed and he had a gun pointed at his head. So it was like motive to kill himself, but guilty people don't run. So I thought that was a bit strange.
Yeah, so eventually he came to his senses, came home, and the trial ensued. So the trial was the biggest part of this. Why was he found not guilty, and why are we arguing that he was guilty if he was found not guilty in court? Well, the jury played a big part of this. Originally, it was about 40% white people. It was a pretty even mix of diversity in the jury, but the jury ended. So a lot of the jury was sequestered and kept in a hotel, and they couldn't look at the news or anything like that. They weren't treated very well. And the prosecution, or the defense team, sorry, got rid of a bunch of the jurors who were on the side of the prosecution. And race played a big part in this. So just a couple of years before this, the killing of Rodney King happened, and a lot of the black community felt kind of left out and disappointed and angry that that had happened even in the first place. And it could be assumed that that the jurors wanted to bring justice to the community, I guess, and find OJ, a black hero, of being not guilty for a crime that he did commit. So obviously the gloves were a big part of this. Kyle, what happened with the gloves there? So he tried on the gloves and...
Yeah, well, the gloves, they didn't fit. They froze them because it's a crime scene. You have to freeze this stuff because the blood will dry and all sorts of things like that. So they froze and unfroze the gloves a few times, actually. And, science, logistically, this is going to shrink and expand gloves. And if you keep doing this, you're going to change the shape of the gloves. And they did this a few times, and then when he tried them on, the gloves didn't fit him. They were a bit too small.
Yep, and later... his defense team was also the best in the business. So this is another example of them buying their way into freedom. So he just bought a really good set of lawyers, Alan Dershowitz, who, may I add, went to Jeffrey Epstein's island a multitude of times and was never tried or never convicted of any crimes. Jeffrey Epstein, while we're on the topic, was allowed to, on a work leave, commit all these crimes while he was convicted of a crime. He was supposed to be in jail. He was on work leave, however, and was allowed to leave the jail and come back as he pleased, pretty much, and was not under correct surveillance during this time, which allowed for the crimes that he committed to happen. So that was another example of celebrities not being treated the same as normal people and getting away with crimes and stuff like that. But back to OJ. So there was more evidence that led to the idea that he was guilty. The DNA evidence is the number one supporting evidence for the prosecution, where they had his blood found at the crime scene, which is extremely suspicious. And it was one of the first trials to use DNA evidence. So the jury wasn't completely adjusted to this switch. They'd never seen it before, and they didn't really know how to trust it. So you can't really blame them for that, even though it was correct and that his blood was there. So that was another reason why they decided not to find him guilty. But then after the trial, so they found him not guilty due to racial motivations, and they didn't know how to trust it. And the glove was a big part of it, where Johnny Cochran, another one of the best defense lawyers in the country at the time, who defended OJ, said, if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. And after the trial, OJ has made some very questionable statements about it. He's laughed it off in interviews many times, and he wrote a book. Kyle, you want to talk about that book just a bit?
Yeah, so he wrote a book saying, If I Did It. So basically, he wrote a book saying, if I were to kill this person, his girlfriend at the time, how would I have done it? And it's a bit strange. He tried to monetize the book, so he tried to make money off of this. And it's just weird that after he's found not guilty, he wants to write a book about if he were to kill the woman, how would he have done it.
Yeah, and that's just like incredibly disrespectful too to the families.
He's trolling the public,
Yeah.
the family of the dead
Yeah,
person,
Ron.
dead people.
Yeah, Ron Goldman has been many times has been on camera, just very livid that he was found not guilty, and it's just a shame for the families that he's been so kind of upbeat about the whole thing. Like he loves the attention, and you can tell. But anyway, that was the OJ case, and obviously he should be found guilty for the DNA. He had motive behind it to do it. There's no stories. There's no alibi for where he was at the time. No one can prove where he was. There was his car chase. Why would he run if he didn't do it? And I mean, the glove that was shrinking. And there's many explanations again, like for why he didn't do it that were debunked and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'd like to say something as well. If this case happened like now,
yeah,
considering how advanced DNA is, and we know that we can trust it now, I think there's a much better chance
Yeah.
he would have been found guilty. But just
Yeah.
because DNA was so new back then, it wasn't like reliable enough for people to take it as like a main
Yeah.
focal point in their argument that he was guilty.
And may I add that one more reason for why they decided not to find him guilty was due to the police they missed how to handle this. They'd never seen something of this magnitude, and they had outdated practices that have been updated today, where they mistreated the evidence. I guess they said that they planted evidence. That's another argument, but there's no real evidence supporting that. And today, the police is much more accustomed to how to handle that stuff, and they would have been much more trustworthy, I would say, even though it is definitely substantial, and he should be found guilty for his crimes. And his actions after were quite vulgar, and he is still treated as a celebrity today. He's got a lot of money, and he's doing pretty well now, which is a shame, to be honest with you.